Hi there, my name is Memo. This is my channel, Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see it taking over my space behind me. It's tropical houseplants. So today I want to do more of my traditional videos where we look at a specific plant and I talk to you about my experiences, what I do in terms of growth, and things that I've learned along the way. So let me pick up the plant. It's a very cool anthurium this time around. So the anthurium I want to talk about, which is coming at you at the screen, and let me bring it in a bit closer so you might be able to see, and if I pan the leaf up and down, and I will also do a traditional Kalielen head test. It is relatively large as a leaf. It's not huge. These do get quite large. This is the Anthurium Regale. Now, you might be able to see how I'm growing this already. I've got it in a net pot, and I have also got it in my usual light, airy, aroid soil mix. And you might be able to see, if I bring it in a bit closer, you can then see that all the roots are growing quite happily, and they're growing at the bottom of this pot. They are also bending slightly, so I think I'm probably going to lose some of those roots, if not all of them, which is a shame. But I do need to repot this quite soon. I'm basically waiting for a new delivery of pon. So I will be moving this into lechuza pon. And this is a request I have for my followers, especially ones that do have the regale in their care and they've potentially moved it over to pon from soil. So this is the important thing. I know a lot of people might be getting these plants from international suppliers or growers like Equigenera, and some of those might be coming in bare root and then you putting it straight into pon. I'd love to hear your experiences as well, but I'm more curious if anybody has gone from soil on this specific anthurium to pon, purely because I know, and again, this is something that Kaylee Ellen has mentioned on her channel a couple of times, that this plant can almost be as fussy as the queen anthurium or the Anthurium warocqueanum. In my experience so far, and I'm not going to lie, it's not been a particularly difficult plant. Yes, there is some crisping on the leaves, but I don't know. I think I've done a previous video on this when I first got it, and it just had these first two leaves. They were already quite crispy. It is quite a thick and leathery leaf, so not quite as thick as the clarinervium, but it's still a relatively kind of stiff leaf. I'm thinking of, and I'm looking at my metallicum that I've got at the top, and I might actually grab that really quickly so you can see the size difference. So this, bear in mind, that is the size of this leaf. Let me show you the metallicum really quickly to see the difference. And this is the metallicum, and you might be able to see one of the leaves is slowly dying off. I'll see if I can do a proper head test. So that gives you an idea of quite how large that newest leaf is. But even though this plant has got massive leaves, and I've always been quite fortunate that I've got a relatively thick stem and a thick kind of more mature plant to begin with, this has always grown massive leaves. Yes, there has been some debate on my Instagram, and there's a random inflorescence buzzing around my face. There's been some debate, and I'm up for that debate as well, on whether or not this is a true metallicum, because some people are just like, it's not narrow enough, it doesn't form the features in quite the way. Now, I've got the inflorescence for the first time ever, so I'm waiting for it to become receptive, and then I will try to pollinate it. Unfortunately, I don't have any male pollen from the same plant, so it will probably be a hybrid. I'm looking on the side, I've got my Vitarifolium that might be coming into bloom soon, so I might do a hybrid between this and the Vitarifolium, depending on whether or not it will take. So keep you posted on that one, but yes, sorry. Big tangent. Let me put this back and let me grab the regale again. Back to the regale. Sorry about that. But with this plant, I have found that it was specifically quite slow in growing. Now, unlike a lot of my other anthuriums that slightly get a bit more brighter light, I've decided to go for a slightly more medium light for this plant because I wanted those darker, more unctuous leaves. And I did get it with this new leaf, and it's considerably larger than the two previous ones. I do the usual thing where I will collar the stem. Essentially, I'll give it a bit of a scarf of sphagnum moss because I find that you tend to get larger leaves faster. And you can see by the size of that petiole and kind of how much it's stretching, it was going towards the light. So again, I implore anybody who has got the Regale out there, who's had some experience and they've grown it for a while, what conditions are you growing it in? Am I doing something differently to you? Maybe I should try your way. But so far, I won't say it's been particularly difficult. I have always been staunchly against getting a Warocqueanum, so a Queen Anthurium. That might change. This was my gateway, essentially, because I know that this one might be as, or almost as difficult as the Warocqueanum, so I wanted to see if I could keep this one happy before I got something like a Queen Anthurium. And so far, so good with this. The one thing I will say, out of all of my Anthurium, very, very, very slow growing. So it might be the growing conditions, it might be the soil, it might be how I'm growing it in my environment. It's getting decent humidity in here. It's getting watered before the soil goes dry, so staying evenly moist. It is very light and airy in terms of the soil mix, and I always want to do that with an Anthurium. This one did have a significant chunk that it was growing from, so that's why I knew that there was a potential to get a big, big leaf. And I'm pretty sure that the leaves could be even bigger than this. So potentially the next one, I am trying to see if I've got anything coming up. Not anytime soon, to be honest. But again, we are in the winter, autumn time, so it could take a while. But yeah, so at the moment, that's where I stand with this. I'm thinking about moving this into pon. I'm fertilizing this still, even in the winter, just a lot more weekly because it doesn't have a lot of active growth happening at the moment. But in the summertime and in the growing season, I'll water this every second watering, as I will fertilize it every second watering like I do with most of my plants. But yeah, so far so good with this one. It's just, as I said, in my experience, very slow growing. So it took a while to bring out that new leaf. It took a very long while for it to unfurl. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful shades of like the red and peach and browny colors before it goes into the full green and it fully hardens off. It took a while to harden off, but a really cool Anthurium nonetheless. I would agree with what Kaylee Ellen says, maybe not for the true beginner. Maybe if you've grown a few Anthuriums and you've got that under your belt and you've grown ones that are slightly fussy, then maybe move on to something like this, but don't go into something like this straight away without knowing necessarily what you're doing, because a lot of things I would imagine could go wrong with this plant quite quickly. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about this. It's obviously in my conservatory, so it's getting a decent level of humidity. No pest issues so far, touch wood. But yeah, I think that's it for now. Short video, even though not an easy plant, but a relatively straightforward plant in terms of care. So light, airy soil mix, a collar or a scarf of sphagnum moss around the base, which I do with most of my Anthuriums, and obviously keeping it very airy, but keeping it evenly moist if at all possible. Don't ever let it dry fully out, because as I said, if it's a bit more like the Anthurium Warocqueanum or the Queen Anthurium, again, I don't have that, so I can't compare it, but this is based on what I've seen from other people. This is not a plant that you want to go dry and stay dry for a very long period of time. Although, interestingly, I will say this, it does have relatively chunky roots. So not quite as chunky like something like the Clarinervium, or even I'm looking at the Vitarifolium, who's got kind of worm-like roots, very, very thick. But yeah, so far so good. I still love it. I still think it's probably one of my most stunning leaves in terms of Anthuriums. Yeah, I mean, even comparing it to my Crystallinum, yeah, I still think this one might just win in that situation for me. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say for today. If you've got any questions, comments, do let me know. I'll try my best. As I said, I've not been growing this. I've probably been growing this for about half a year now. But do please share any of your own experiences if you've had growing the Regale, and let me know maybe what you're doing differently to me. And definitely, if you've transitioned this plant specifically from a soil mix into lechuza pon, let me know how that went for you, because this is one that I worry a bit by moving it into lechuza pon straight away. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. So hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon, and I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.